Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we talk to growers from across the greenhouse industry about market trends, innovation, their biggest challenges and opportunities, and more. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower. Last week, Proven Winners announced that the two companies that have controlled the Proven Winners brand, 4-Star Greenhouse and Pleasant View Gardens, would be combining to form one Proven Winners company. In this special episode of the Greenhouse Grower to Grower podcast, I caught up with Proven Winner CEO Mark Broxon, as well as 4-Star Greenhouse owner Tom Smith and Pleasant View Gardens owner Henry Huntington, to learn more about how this arrangement came about and what it means for each company involved, the grower and retail customers of Proven Winners, and the industry as a whole. Here's our conversation. When did the conversation start taking place? And then, kind of leading into that, why was this announcement made then?
Well, for the last 30 years, maybe, I don't know. Obviously, I joke about that, but we've always looked at our model and how we all came together, which was great 35 years ago or 33 years ago, whatever that number is. And it was great back then, but we quickly realized that the more we could do things together and the sooner we could come together as one company would be the best thing for us and for the entire industry.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
but we've been at it for a while. We've been at it for a couple of years,
Okay.
working on this. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that's been a long time coming. I mean, it's one of those situations where I think it's going to be obvious for so many reasons why we came together, and there was reasons that we were individual companies for quite a long time because we enjoyed our independence and we had
Yeah.
family-owned businesses and but at the same time, our family is still Proven Winners as a group. It's a big family, and we appreciate that. And then when we all get in one direction, going in the same way, pulling the same rope or rowing the same boat, whatever you want to call it, it's a much better situation than basically not being able to make decisions and competing with each other and trying to figure out what's best for the brand, but we can't do it because of too many situations that we just couldn't do.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Mark, what about your perspective on all that?
When when these guys started this all off, they were, very small businesses, right? I mean, 4-Star was a small greenhouse operator, Pleasant View was a small greenhouse operator. They got together and, started a brand that was, basically, started from scratch in 92, right? So eventually these guys' business kept growing and growing and growing. It was growing around Proven Winners essentially, right? So eventually, what started off as sort of a hobby of Proven Winners in a way, that's not the right word, eventually became to dominate their businesses to the point where you're like Henry and Tom said, you just had to bring them together.
Yeah. Well, was there a reason why this was the right time for everything then?
I think we were finally all ready. I mean, for myself personally, obviously, you're trying to figure out the best exit strategy for everybody, for your customer base, for your employee base, for the baby, which is our brand. And, to bring them together is the best thing to be able to do, to be able to take the brand to the next level, to be able to protect our customers, be able to protect our employees, and have a great future in front of them versus if I were to try to sell out at who knows when that would be, then it would be a little more challenging for Proven Winners to keep doing what it's doing. And would that be fair to Henry? There's just a lot of things that this is by far the best option for sure.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we've had a number of people say that, employees, customers, everybody.
sure.
And the same for our side, Brian, too. It's I mean, obviously we're a little bit more of a company as a family business with, with Jeff and I and my kid, the kid, next generation in the family, but it was the same thing. I mean, with all the other reasons, which were really important reasons about bringing this company together, taking the handcuffs off. But well, we were working through a transition strategy as well, and it was, and what is the best way to do this? What's the best for the family? What's the best for Proven Winners? And
Dude.
and then and we always felt like what was best for the business and Proven Winners was going to be the best for the family, right? Because that's one they both needed each other, right? And so this was, as we talked and looked at what is the best thing to really take this thing to the next level. This was the thing that made the most sense, and it aligned with Tom and his, what his needs were, and then but again, what was the best for proven winners, and how could we take this thing to be, we're already the world class, that world class brand, but how do we make it even bigger? How do we take advantage of that to a next level?
Yeah. If you'd have started this, today, right? If you started this today, you'd never start them as three separate companies, right? I mean, you just wouldn't, right?
Mhm.
They just evolved that way. So, like Henry Tom said, it just made sense to bring them together because you'd never started that way.
Well,
I think it's good, Tom. Sorry.
I'm going to say when we started, I mean, we were not planning on building a brand. We were just planning on trying to sell some liners to growers.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, it's like, well, let's put them under an umbrella name called Proven Winners. This is great, which has been fantastic. And after time, it's kind of like, there seems to be some traction with consumers saying they are looking for proven winners. So maybe we can start marketing to the consumer. And that's when we, increased our marketing fee. And before you know it, the thing really started taking off. And when you look at the long-term history, I mean, our brand awareness has been climbing like this. I mean, with all the social media and everything that we're doing, brand awareness is higher than ever.
Yeah.
But the actual product, we got slow increases, but the gap is getting so much bigger every single year. We got to figure out how to satisfy these you know, under underserved markets. So if you look at like the South and the West in particular, I mean, if we could get the same kind of penetration that we have in the Midwest, Great Lakes region, and the Northeast, our sales will explode.
Yeah.
So there's huge opportunities out there, but based on our agreements in the past, we could never service those markets because we could never discuss how to do it, and it was just a nightmare. So this is a great opportunity.
Well, Tom, I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the things that jumped out at me when I saw the initial news was, you mentioning, you know, the ability of proven winners to now expand into some of these underserved markets. So what is the plan that you guys are working on to kind of make that happen then, to really expand out of where you guys, typically have been focused on?
Well, what's great about this, huge opportunities in many directions. I mean, you can look at it and say, well, is there opportunities to license growers in certain regions to do certain things, grow product for us, and whether it's young plants or retail ready product? Is it an opportunity to look at some distressed properties or some greenhouses that may be going out of business? That there opportunities to look at a great greenhouse that we might be able to buy in certain regions that'll fulfill some of those markets?
Yeah.
Or is it an opportunity to say, here's the best place to put a brand new structure, do capital expensing, and build it back up from the ground up in those underserved markets too. So all three of those are options. Whether one ends up being better than the other, who knows? We'll see. And we'll also
Yeah.
see who wants to help jump on that train to drive that baby home.
Yeah, Brian, I think one of the things we're so excited about is the opportunities that are out there, and it really is, where do we start first?
Yeah.
What do we do first? Because there's a number of them that we could jump on, and we'll just help bring it to the next level.
What I think, go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, Brian. I was going to say we can also be a lot easier to do business with too, right? I mean, in the past we've had three catalogs, right? Because we're three separate businesses. We kind of grew up that way. So you have three catalogs, you have three websites, you have different ordering systems, right? You have different ways of going to business. And as much as these three companies have been aligned, right? They're a lot alike because they were always under the same ownership, right? Under the Smiths and Huntingtons, there was just a lot of difference, and there was four silos. We had to be in separate silos doing things somewhat differently, even legally. But there's such an opportunity to start doing things together as one group and one business versus operating in separate silos.
Yeah.
So even to the point with, even like things like separate catalogs. It's true. We would have separate catalogs because we had to do it because we're separate businesses. No need to do that kind of thing anymore. It was kind of wasteful too.
Sure, I understand that. Well, and going back to what Tom and Henry were talking about, just from the position of long-standing family-run businesses, and the fact that, I mean, you've seen what happens in this industry over the past couple of years when you don't have a plan in place for what's the next step of the business going to be for the next generation, and the fact that this is the plan that you guys come up with, and there is a plan, I think it really proves how you guys are looking to the future. as you work through, how this market is evolving and how you can continue to be a part of it. So that really stood out to me as I was looking through this. Um, One of the things I did want to ask about too is the role that Staple Street Capital played in this process, and how are they kind of tied into everything?
I just think they're a great partner, no doubt about it. I mean, they're the partner we've been looking for. They have the same values that we have. They want to drive this business to the next level. They're looking for growth and expansion. They're already talking about the options that I just mentioned. What's our best option to be able to expand in these markets? So they're looking for expansion. They've got the capital to help us do the kind of things we need to do. So they're only making us stronger for sure to help us get to that next level. And a lot of smart guys too on top of that.
Yeah, and from a business perspective, we were very careful about who we chose as a partner. There were a lot of people interested in us, obviously, and we wanted to make sure this wasn't a typical private equity coming in and just slashing and burning. Right? We wanted somebody that saw the value in the brand, saw the opportunities that were there, and were willing to invest resources, whether it's people or capital or whatever, into this thing, to really help us grow it. And that's what we love about these guys. I mean, one of the reasons we were late was because we were just on a call with those guys,
Sure.
and we were talking about, we were really getting some of the planning things done, and they just bring such resources to us, and exciting to be to be working with them. And what's even better is, we have such an amazing team, whether it's at the proven winners level or whether it's at each of our individual companies, that that they're not coming in to take over. They're coming in to say, hey, we're here, we've got the resources to help you, but you guys have the vision. You guys know where this thing can go. You guys are going to drive this thing forward. It's going to be you guys that will be critical people and critical pieces of the whole machine to make this thing happen.
Sure. One of the things that we really want to focus on as well is, and I know that obviously, the answers to this are still going to be forthcoming, I think, is, the ultimate effect that this news will have both on the two of your companies in case of Four Star and Pleasant View, but then also proven winners customers as a whole. So let's start with the customers, particularly on the grower side, because that's our core audience for Greenhouse Grower. What can they expect moving forward as a result of this news?
All right. I definitely think it's great possibilities for them. There'll be more consistency. We're going to have best practices. So
Mhm.
we're going to be, working much closer together when it comes down to, what do you guys do? How do you guys do it? And vice versa. So we're going to be traveling back and forth and talking to each other how to make best practices. Single products too. So we're hoping to get to the, same tray size and same product mix. Uh, shipping to make it a lot more easier to understand where the product's coming from. Um, what else am I missing, Henry?
Well, I think ultimately, what we're trying to build is transparency for our customers to be able, that they're buying from proven winners now. They're not buying from Four Star or Pleasant View. They're buying from proven winners, and it almost doesn't matter where it's coming from, because it's gonna be this great. We already, both companies provide out what I think are the best darn liners in the industry. Right now, to pool our resources, and as Tom said, best practices, it's only gonna be better. And so those customers can expect that consistency and quality of product that they always have, and again, not matter where it comes from. To answer your question, your kind of the first part of your question, what should our customers expect from us? I mean, in the initial, in the short term, it's really important for everybody to understand that nothing changes for the 26th season. I mean, let's face it, by the end of next week, close to 70% of our young plant business will be booked by then. And so there's no way, even if we wanted to, that it would make sense to change anything. So they'll still be, the brokers will still be dealing with Pleasant or dealing with Four Star in terms of where those orders are placed. That all get shipped. It'll be almost like and nothing changes for them. for this year. But and then same thing with our retail ready programs. Those are all baked in as well. So that's all going to stay the same. It'll just be what'll happen is behind the scenes is will be all these integration teams that are working on deciding how do we bring this together, what's the priority, and what's the most important to take this thing forward, and be as seamless and transparent to our customers as we can be.
Okay. Okay.
And it's going to be, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. It's going to be basically one place to place an order for proven winners in the future for 27. And actually, it's going to be changing our names from, we don't know exactly yet, but it's not going to be Pleasant View and 4-Star anymore. It's probably proven winners East, proven winners Great Lakes region, something like that, giving us the opportunities to be able to say there's going to be a proven winners West or South, wherever else we may be putting up locations.
Okay.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I don't even think I'm not even sure that the greater customer, is even gonna know. They're just gonna know proven winners. I don't even know if they're gonna know or care whether it's east, west, north, south, whatever. Right? It's gonna be proven winners where they
Yeah.
getting their stuff from.
Okay. Henry, Tom, how did you approach each of your teams? And I know that this wouldn't necessarily have a huge effect on them, but how did you talk to your own teams about, here's what we're going to do, here's how it affects, for the positive, you and your role in our businesses going forward?
Yeah, I think that was, kind of the exciting thing. I mean, of course, we coordinated very carefully, this whole communication plan with our staffs. Because again, we had our two companies, and of course, we had proven winners, and that amazing staff that we have, and then we've got stock facility in Costa Rica, and WinGen, our breeding facility in Texas. So, we were very careful about having that all coordinated and make sure we were giving the same message at the same exact time. But
Yeah.
I, the and of course there's the initial shock and different reactions amongst the group. But I think what we really kind of tried to project to our people, and I think by the time the session was over, was this positivity and this the opportunity, the what this means going forward, the not trying to stop the question of am I going to have a job, and it's like, oh, what's the new job I can potentially have, or how do I get even more involved in that type of thing. So
Yeah.
I think, well, of course you got to let things settle in and all that. I think in general there's a feeling of positivity around this then.
Well, I think it went really, really well, actually. And the people in the upper management level that's been dealing with all the challenges of having the three companies in the past were all like, more like, it's about time. This is going to be
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the key issue too is, I mean, with like you mentioned earlier, Brian, you bring in private equity. I mean, this is, sometimes you bring them in for a distressed sale, like, Color Spot or something like that. Sometimes you bring in, like, I think like a Bell or something to try to, squeeze as much out of it as you can. But I think in neither of those two examples were the growth opportunities there, right? The ages weren't in those circumstances, but I think what Staple Street saw and why Tom and Henry picked them was that there is the growth potential. So I'm hoping that everybody in our organizations, and I know case of it call too, look at this and say, in fact, one of the things you've said to our team so far, and hopefully they've heard it, is that we need you more than ever because there's just more opportunities we've ever had in the past.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. And just going back to one of the points you were talking about earlier, Mark, about, again, that expansion into some of the, underserved markets. How do you see that ultimately affecting new variety development from the proven winners side? Is this looking at, crops that are fit for specific regions that you may not have been involved in the past? How do you look at new variety development kind of taking shape through all this?
I don't know if I see a lot of changes, but I think that one of the things that breeders will see is more opportunities. And from an annual standpoint, annuals is a big part of what we do, right? It's probably a large majority, vast majority of our sales. And Kevin Hurd, our now our senior vice president of product development, you probably know him, has been on the phone with all the breeder partners we work with. And one of the things people have said in the past is that, and maybe this sounds a little self-serving, but if your plant variety, and it does self-serving sound that way, but if your plant variety makes it into proven winners, it's like your kid, playing for the New York Yankees or something like that. And I think all the breeders see that with us finally coming together to form one entity, all on the same page, there'll just be that much more opportunity for our plant breeders and arguably more varieties coming to the brand.
Sure. And when you think about a plant breeder too, think about the opportunities that proven winners bring them. I mean, normally a plant breeder has a plant and, what's their best hope and prayer? It's like, well, I'm going to take it to Home Depot or Lowe's and hopefully they pick it up for a year or two until something better comes along. Well, when they bring it to proven winners, basically it's open to every box store. It's open to every independent garden center.
Yeah.
So it's open to every broker network. No one has the distribution that we have when it comes down to introducing a plant and the longevity of keeping that plant alive. And when you look at some of these plants that, are around basically until the patents run out almost, in many cases, even after the fact.
Or longer. Yeah.
Yeah, and longer. I mean, how many plants that are introduced at the pack trials every year are still around 3 years later?
Yeah.
Very few. I mean, but when we introduce a plant, I mean, it just continues to keep on growing and going. So, I mean, for a breeder's point of view, there's no better home than proven winners.
One last question, and I'll address this to each of you individually. So kind of taking a step back from, where this takes proven winners as a company, where it takes, your customers. What are you most optimistic about now? What are you most excited about the future of the industry, particularly the role that the proven winners plays in the future of this market?
Well, I think more than any, I'm going to say more than anything, I think what's exciting is proven winners has always been the leader in promoting the industry. No one's doing the kind of marketing, social media promotion of planting, gardening than proven winners. We'd love to actually see more people advertise and promote the garden to the consumer as much as we do. And I think that's the big benefit for sure.
I look at three different things. For the consumer, we're finally going to be able to get product to those marketplaces so we can satisfy this huge consumer demand that we continue to struggle to meet, right? And so it'll make it so much easier to get that product into the marketplace. For the retailer and the grower, it'll be a much better it'll be such a smoother way to do business, cleaner way to do business with us. I mean, there won't be this confusion, at certain levels of 4-star versus Pleasant View, who's selling what, and even getting the proven winners message down to them because it's being blocked by us as the growers, right? So it'll be a much cleaner way to connect to the growers and the consumers. And I want to go to the broker level, they have one product line to offer now rather than two and have to manage both of those things. So, I mean, that's just a few of the things that I see working well for this.
Okay. Mark, what about your perspective on just the future then?
I would add, and I'd point this out too, and Brian, you guys probably know this too, is that in a lot of cases, the gardening industry as a whole hasn't been growing, right? When you see some statistics. So I think for me and for us, I think it's what Tom or Henry says about the consumer, right? And we think gardening is a good thing for people. And the more we can make them more successful, make it easier for them to enjoy a beautiful garden, and put down their phones and get outside, and improve their health and happiness. That's what we've been about. And I think what we've done here, what we're doing will just make it easier for people to have a beautiful garden, beautiful environment, get outside, and enjoy nature.
Thanks for joining us. You can learn more at greenhousegrower.com. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, and please leave us a rating as it helps other podcast listeners find the show.